Welcome, movie lovers, to another episode of Frame by Frame, a series dedicated to the craft of filmmaking. Let me ask you this, what's $42 billion sound like? Now, Star Wars is the franchise that redefined box office success, and this month, director Gareth Edwards is looking to redefine the brand with Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
Edwards promises this first anthology film to be a gritty take on the Star Wars universe. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. You see, George Lucas created Star Wars by borrowing from a popular sci-fi genre, the space opera. That genre has since evolved, and Edwards is looking to evolve Star Wars along with it. Which means, if we want to decipher the future of Star Wars, we need to understand the genres behind it. Let's start with the space opera. Beginning with the story A Honeymoon in Space, this genre was born in the magazine serials of the early 20th century. Space operas were considered lowest common denominator sci-fi, pulpy tales that were soft on science and heavy on melodrama. The genre's tropes include space and interplanetary conflict, melodramatic adventure, risk-taking, and romantic love. If you need a reference point, think The Last Starfighter, the original Battlestar Galactica, or Flash Gordon. Actually, it's probably best not to think about Flash Gordon at all. But the genre was about entertainment, not believability, and entertainment was exactly what American moviegoers in the late 70s were looking for. You see, audiences had become exhausted by the bleak, political films that dominated the decade. George Lucas sensed the public was starved for the kind of escapism found in space operas, so he tried, but failed to get the rights to Flash Gordon. Lucas vowed if he couldn't get the rights to that space opera, he'd invent his own, and so Star Wars was born. But just how many space opera tropes actually appear in the original trilogy? Well, engagements like the Battle of Yavin tick the box for space conflict. The battles of Hoth, Endor, and Tatooine also reflect the interplanetary combat the genre is known for. What about melodramatic adventure? To be clear, melodramas rely on sensational plots that appeal to the emotions. Melodramas also keep characterization simple to make way for fast-paced stories, which means characters are often two-dimensional. You know, Flash Gordon's good, Emperor Ming's bad, this guy's an asshole. If we're being honest, like really honest, the characters in Star Wars aren't much more complex. Luke is the reluctant hero, Leia is the virtuous lady, Han the puckish rogue, and so on. The next space opera trope, risk-taking, is personified by Han Solo. His life is a series of gambles, whether they be smuggling Luke and Obi-Wan, seducing Princess Leia, or taking on TIE fighters. Which leaves the last item on the space opera checklist, romantic love. This cliche is easy to spot as it follows a strict formula. First, the man admires the woman he desires from afar. Second, the man professes his love, yet the woman rejects him to protect her virtue.
Fredo's gonna leave without giving you a goodbye kiss?
I just assumed he's a Wookiee.
I can arrange that.
Third, the man wins the woman's heart by performing heroic deeds. Or he dies, because dating's hard.
You don't have to do this to impress me.
Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
And for the fourth and final step, the pair consummates their secret love.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Very nice.
Alright, so if you're paying attention, you know that the original trilogy meets all of the criteria of a space opera. Search long enough and you'll also find that the other episodic live-action Star Wars films fly within the same general flight pattern. The only outlier? Well, right now it seems to be Rogue One. Why? Well, Gareth Edwards promises a blood and guts war film, where the good guys are bad, the bad guys are good, and everyone has a British accent for God knows why. Doesn't sound like a space opera to me. In fact, it seems more like what the genre evolved into. Get ready for it. The new space opera. Yeah, I know, they really phoned that label in. Titles aside, the new space opera was created in the 1980s in response to the emergence of another sci-fi genre, cyberpunk. This genre's tagline was high-tech, low-life. Stories focused on oppressive governments that use cybernetics and information technology to control the masses. Big screen examples include Blade Runner, Strange Days, and Ghost in the Shell. These were twisted, complex visions of humanity's future. Downbeat or not though, they found an audience. Space opera writers, now desperate to stay relevant, began adapting cyberpunk tropes into their own work. The new space opera was the result. While the interplanetary scope of the original space opera remained intact, everything else changed. The new space opera wasn't just scientifically rigorous, it had stronger characterization and a cynical tone to boot. If you want to see the contrast between the new and old space operas, I'll point you to Battlestar Galactica. It was first imagined as an upbeat space opera, then as a grim new space opera.
Be damned if I want to let a guy like you run me off my own ship.
That likely parallels how Rogue One will deviate from the Star Wars saga. To use Gareth Edwards' own words, his film is about the reality of war. Good guys are bad guys are good. Sounds like complex characterization to me, especially since the film's hero, Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, is described as a defiant former criminal. Saw Gerrera, played by Forrest Whitaker, is no wilting flower either. He's the hard-edged leader of a rebel extremist group known as the Partisans. Christ, even the droids in Rogue One seem conflicted.
The captain says you are a friend. I will not kill you.
Thanks.
Complicated characters aside though, how else does Rogue One fit the new space opera model? Well, our heroes seem to be doing their fair share of planet hopping, so the scope seems correct. Which leaves one last new space opera qualifier for Rogue One to meet. Is it scientifically rigorous? Or at least more so than the other episodic Star Wars films? Well, here's where I slip into speculation. Galen Erso, played by Mads Mikkelsen, is not just Jyn's father. He's a scientist who's coerced by the Empire into helping build the Death Star. You know, the Empire's ultimate weapon that could somehow be blown up by 2 photon torpedoes. It's not just a hell of a design flaw, it feels too convenient to be credible, which is fine. Space operas like A New Hope don't have to be believable. But if Edwards intends to make a realistic Star Wars film, he can't dismiss plot holes like these. Now, some fans have suggested that the Death Star's fatal weakness will be addressed in Rogue One. The thinking is that Galen built the flaw into the Death Star to help the rebels destroy it. Totally makes sense. He's the one who sends the coded message to the rebels about the project after all. Plus, Galen would have the motive, knowledge, and probably the opportunity to pull such a sabotage off. Again, that's all just speculation. But if Rogue One attempts such a fix, it'll show a concern for technical accuracy, making the case even stronger for the film's classification as a new space opera. Before we land this ship though, let's review our travels. George Lucas built Star Wars on the foundation of the space opera, and like the genre it emulated, Star Wars had adventure, romance, and a keen sense of humor.
I used to live here.
You're gonna die here. Convenient.
It was just the roller coaster ride American audiences needed after the heavy films of the 1970s. Today though, we've got quite the opposite problem. American theaters are choked with fanfare fantasies, which makes this a perfect time for Star Wars to adopt the darker identity of the new space opera. Gareth Edwards is just keeping up with the times, the same way George Lucas did decades before him. So when you think about it, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Now, whether we're talking about Jyn Erso or the Rebel Uprising, Rogue One's story embodies this month's Loot Crate theme, revolution, a defiant outcry against dictators and despots alike. And for pop culture aficionados looking to revolutionize their collection, Loot Crate is the rebellion for you. It's a monthly subscription service that delivers a crate like this one to your door every month. Similar to November's Magical Crate shown here, each box contains pop culture inspired gadgets and gear. A $40 value for less than $20 a month. All you need to do is sign up by the December 19th cutoff at 9 p.m. Pacific to get your loot. So if you'd like to join, follow the URL on screen and enter the code FRAME to save 10% on your subscription. We'll leave saving the galaxy to you. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and make sure to subscribe to this channel, Film Theory, for more fantastic film-related content. If you'd like to check out more Frame by Frame, click the frame to the left to watch an episode on the screenwriting techniques behind Star Wars. Or click the frame to the right to watch a Film Theory episode on Star Wars Rogue One. And until next time, my name is Kyle, and this has been Frame by Frame.